I have an incredible guest today, Brian Dalyaly. We've known each other for...
Are any guests not incredible?
Everybody's incredible.
Okay.
But some are more incredible. Brian and I, we met back in 2008-9. There was a third-party asset management company here in San Diego during the financial crisis that was managing assets for a lot of the major banks as a third party. Are there certain things that you have found recently in San Diego to be more expensive than others?
It's all expensive.
It's all expensive.
Dude, when we started, it was $30 a foot when we started. So technically,
wow, really?
We're 3 times the amount. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in real estate that are like, well, I got to make money and I got to find ways to make money. So let's try this flipping thing. People don't realize that you can lose your ass. It's just going to get harder as the market's not giving you free money.
All right, everybody, welcome in to the Abundance to Give podcast. I have an incredible guest today, Brian Dalyaly. We've known each other for...
Are any guests not incredible?
Everybody's incredible.
Okay.
But some are more incredible. So I'd put you on the more incredible
Okay.
list.
Oh, thanks,
yeah.
dude.
But we've known each other going back to the financial crisis days.
I know.
2000, pretty much 2008, 9, 10 when we started off at Atlas REO.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's crazy to see how the asset managers that came out of that company went off, started doing their own thing, some. And then, you're doing great things here in San Diego, and, how everybody's just kind of took that opportunity, which was a 2-year, maybe 2-3 year run.
Yeah.
And has realized, crap, I don't just want to be an asset manager working in a cubicle.
Yeah.
I'd rather go own the real estate, transact it, be an investor, and grow wealth for me and investors and everybody else.
Yeah, dude. I tell people often, I credit that experience a ton of the reason that I'm able to do what we do now. Because being able to process and manage 300 properties at a time, like who has the opportunity to try to do that? You're selling 50, 75 homes a month. You see a lot. You get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And getting into investing or getting into anything and just being able to manage that amount of information as quickly as we did. Again, I just think it primed our minds differently.
Yeah. And so for anybody that doesn't know, Brian and I, we met back in 2008-9. There was a third-party asset management company here in San Diego during the financial crisis that was managing assets for a lot of the major banks as a third party. EMC, Chase, B of A, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Countrywide. Fucking Countrywide.
Yeah.
Any and all these banks, the crazy time of the financial crisis. So thousands of assets, meaning single family, whatever it is, coming into the company every month. And so it grew exponentially.
Yeah.
Atlas did. And I became an asset manager there. I was doing 300 plus homes managing at any given time. And we were using Equator. So if anybody hears this, they're like, Equator.
Small group of people will know what that is.
double screens managing. Imagine you get realtors and people managing 1 or 2 assets at a time, and they lose their mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, yeah, but we were doing like 300 at a time.
Yeah.
And the systems allowed you to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
And then doing that, it just primes your mind, like just different. Like,
yeah.
You see, a real estate agent who has 1 or 2 transactions at a time, every little thing is hugely impactful to them emotionally.
Yeah.
When you got 300 at a time, it's like punch me in the face.
Right. The emotion goes out. And I laugh because when people show me these videos and photos of like hoarder houses or really bad houses with, rough stuff inside, I kind of laugh because I'm like, dude, this is bad, but you can't imagine the shit that I saw in 2008-9. I know you. We got all these photos that would come in because the process would happen. The bank forecloses on the house. It gets transferred to us as the third party. First thing we're doing is checking if it's vacant or occupied. And presuming it's vacant, well, now the realtor goes inside. So we choose the realtor for the area. And they go inside, take all the photos, send it to all of us. They upload it into the system. And you open some of these things up, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Backcountry Bayou, Louisiana homes. Like so many of these homes just ended up being demoed. Like you had to trash the whole house and just sell the land.
Well, and seeing the different real estate throughout the country.
Yeah.
I think stuff I was managing mostly was upper West, like the Upper West, and then East Coast. I was doing East Coast stuff, a little bit in San Diego, but not much. Other people had those. But yeah, I was seeing stuff for 25 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to see the country quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what about that time? So now you are running We Revive here in San Diego.
Yep.
Major renovation company for flips and ADUs and development and all kinds of different things. How would you say that taking that skill set from asset management, moving to how you got started, tell me about your first flip.
Okay. Well, so I say when we started at the time, it was like 2010. I was actually partnered with another asset manager from our previous company. We didn't actually flip it. We wholesaled it. So wholesale is when you put the property under contract and then you take that contract and basically assign it. Yeah, you sell the rights to that contract, the equitable interest in the property, if we want to get all technical on it. So we did that. Because we had no money. We had not a substantial enough money to do anything on our own in real estate. So we started with $2,500 and put that as an EMD. Yep. Wholesale the first one for 12 grand. We did that like 4 more times in a like a 6-month period, and then
so you were to rack up a little bit of capital.
Yep.
Then
that got enough for us to go full time, and then we started. We kept obviously trying to buy properties. The first one we flipped, we actually, thankfully, so we were a little bit overwhelmed with the whole renovation process. We understood real estate like the back of our hand, but then getting into the point of like, okay, we gotta hire contractors, and we gotta tell them what to do, and then we gotta manage those contractors, and then and all the materials, and so we decided that we needed to find somebody that really knew what they were doing. We were going to bring the property. So we brought the property to them. We brought half of the money it was going to take after, the first hard money loan.
Yep.
And they had done hundreds of flips, and we're like, listen, we're not going to be shy about this. We are learning how you do what you do so that we can do this on our own. But we have a property. It looks really good on paper, and we're going to come up with half the money. You come in with half the money, and you manage it.
Yep.
And we watch.
Yeah, well, they don't have to find the deal. You're finding the deal. You're bringing it to the table.
Yep.
Bringing in some capital too.
Yep.
Which is helpful for them, and their prowess is probably the management and operations execution side.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's how we did it.
So that is a perfect example of a value add partnership, right? Yin and yang, where they're bringing some capital too, but the ability to execute. I call it the sweat. And then you guys are a huge portion of it, because finding the deal is, I'd say, at least half the battle.
Yeah.
So walk me through that one if you can remember it. What did you buy it for? What was the reno?
Gosh, dude.
I mean, come on. Everybody remembers their first flip, Brian.
No, they don't.
Everybody remembers their first. I remember my first, when I was doing home sales, I remember my first home sale. Yellow house, Escondido, $295,000, piece of shit. Now,
oh my God,
I helped my clients buy it because it's your first sale ever. I remember my first commission check was like $1,250 after my crappy splits.
This is what gets me in trouble with my wife, because I don't remember shit like that.
But the reason why I remember it, because I just remember how happy I was. I was like, I got a commission check.
Yeah.
And by the time I got all my splits and everything out of it, it was like horrible, right? But that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
I was working at Atlas at that time when I got that first commission check. Because I was hustling in the evenings after Atlas to go do home sales, basically short sales, because I saw the market moving. Mm-hmm. And I remember even talking to the owners of the company, I forget their names now.
Dave and Greg, yeah.
I remember chatting with them.
I remember that. Oh.
Yeah, what the hell? But I remember chatting with them about it. I said, do you guys see the needle moving here? Like, it's moving from REOs to short sales. Like, what are you guys going to do about that? And they didn't really have a good answer, but I knew it was going. I could see it. The volume was changing, right? Where short sale, meaning it's still distressed. Homeowner controls it, though, so the bank doesn't own it yet. And they can agree to sell it for less than the loan against it.
Yep.
So that allowed a realtor that knows what they're doing to go in, sit with the homeowner, walk them through the situation, how they can do it. And most homeowners either wanted to just try and keep the home if they could, or stay in it longer before it goes back. Yep. And ideally get relieved of all the debt. That was kind of the big issues that most homeowners came up with. And we did an enormous amount of short sales when I finally jumped out because I was the perfect candidate. I mean, think about it. I was just coming from inside the banks, how they kind of look at things, and they're completely irrational, but they are. And now I can go sit down with a homeowner, look at their 4 or 5 loans they have on their house at that time, which a lot of people did, and first, seconds, thirds, fourths, I mean, all kinds of stuff, and maneuver through that to hopefully get them to what they ultimately wanted, which that was get time. If they can't save it, then get relieved of the debt and move on and fight for another day.
Yep.
Yeah, it was wild.
I wonder how many of those people actually realize later that there's a tax consequence to the loss. Did they ever follow through with that?
Well, no, they didn't because and I think from forgetting the bills, it was like SB bill 472 and 468 or whatever the heck it was. But that got hammered against because you're right. It is considered phantom income.
Yeah.
When you get relieved of this debt.
That would have been terrible.
But there was a huge offset to that. So people didn't end up getting hammered with it.
Okay.
Not when they do it the right way. Yeah.
That's good.
So those are those. So your first flip.
Your question is, I don't know, man.
You know, your first flip?
It was like 350,000.
Okay.
It was in Escondido. I mean, at the time, the repairs were like, I don't know, like 60,000. It wasn't
kind of like a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Probably would cost 120 now.
Right, it's double.
Yeah, 3-bed, 2-bath.
So what would you say that you're like today? You're at $100 a foot on your reno for when I say let's include full interior. You're not having to do the roof, replacing some windows, and exterior kind of freshen up, paint, stuff like that.
For that, we're probably like our hard cost. We have a very in-depth system now to keep our costs lower, but that's probably like 85 a foot. Roof and mechanical, you know, if you throw those in, then we're at 100. Most of the projects we're doing nowadays are bigger jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, we fit in some smaller
So you're
ones.
doing some value add where you're adding square footage and
don't do a lot of that just because the permits process is just a pain in the ass. But we do a lot of major renos where we're moving walls and
interior walls.
Interior walls, yeah.
Still structural, or does it
sometimes?
matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
you'll put the beams in. And all that
we'll get
stuff.
an engineer involved and get it signed off on just in case we do have a problem.
Is that pretty much over the counter for that stuff? Like if you're putting in a beam across the ceiling?
No. Again, I mean, we try not to get permits, but
we'll do cut that out.
Yeah, we'll do over the counter permits when it's more of a cosmetic.
Yeah.
But if we get involved in beams, they they want to see the whole structural planning behind it, which is fine if we're doing.
But do you get permits for that, or no?
No.
Okay.
If we can avoid it, no.
Yeah.
But the way we mitigate the risk is if it's anything. A lot
you take pictures of everything. You document it through plans.
A lot of structural stuff, once you've done it a lot, is really relatively simple.
Yeah.
But when it gets complex and we feel like it's you're under a 12-foot beam and it's all basically the same. We just try to over engineer it. But when you get complex and we get an engineer involved, spec it out for us, give us the drawings. We're going to build to that. And then if for any reason we do have to permit, or when we disclose it to the buyer, we're like, hey, no permits, but here's the structural. And here's
correct.
What we did.
Yeah, and you take photos of everything, you document it, you have licensed engineers do it, et cetera, et cetera.
I would love to get permits. It's just the cities make it way too hard.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll sit there for 3 months and you're like, I need to turn this house.
Yeah. They just make it untenable.
Because in the flipping, the speed is everything.
Yep.
Would you say you're flipping houses in 4 to 6 months on average?
Average, yeah. I think our average last year was like is a little higher. It was like 140 days.
Okay.
We're typically around 120 average, but we got a couple.
Is that end to end from acquisition date to close of escrow on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's probably going to change here. I mean, when we started in 2011, I mean, it was like 6 to 8 months because your sale time. You went on the market, and if you sold before 90 days, you'd like be praying, God, this is fast.
Right.
Nowadays, if you or at least the last couple of years, you put on a house in the market. If it didn't sell within the first 2 weeks, you're like, what's wrong?
Right. We need to adjust something.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we're still in a kind of market where, you hope things are under contract within the first 2 weeks of listing it. But I think that's going to change.
You do? Why?
I think
You think we're hitting a plateau because of rates and costs?
Sure, for real. Yeah, plateau is a good way to put it. There's just more supply than there is demand.
Okay.
Every week, more supply than demand. And
So you are seeing that.
Oh yeah,
because I love your real report that you put out. By the way, he has a great newsletter. Is it once a week or once a month? Once a week. Once a week. Do you handwrite that, or do you have somebody write it?
Oh, I write it.
You do?
Yeah.
You sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody asks that.
Well, no, which is great because it feels like intimate, like it's custom, like where you actually do write it and spend the time.
Yeah. No, I write it for myself, right? And then I publish it. I mean, when I'm writing it, I'm pretending I'm writing to somebody, right?
Right.
I got to make it personal, but the information I'm after, the decisions that I'm trying to make based on analyzing the data is for our company.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to figure out like, hey, like 6
where
months from
where
now,
are things trending?
Where are we going? So yes, I write it. I write it every week, and I look at it every week. And right now, compared to every January that I've had data for, there's the gap between the amount of supply coming on the market and the amount of demand.
It's spreading.
Is spreading. Yeah, it's wider.
Okay.
So
how many months of supply do we have currently for San Diego?
Depends on whose data you're looking at. The current data that I have, which trends it, like what is our monthly pace of sales?
Right.
Compared to our active inventory, we're above 3.
Okay.
But that's also not really fair because the current trend of monthly sales is based on all the properties that went under contract in December.
Right.
So I think we're still roughly 2.5.
Right.
Months
when they say a average or balanced market is 6 months, but
it's bullshit.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
Okay.
It's what matters is the trend line. Like, is the trend line going up or is the trend line going down? Okay. Like that tells you who has the power in the market. A balanced, like that 6 month inventory is based on the previous. Like that's also
based on old data.
Old data
versus looking forward. Yeah.
Escrows used to take 60 days to close. Yeah. Now with technology and system improvements, I mean, a lot of lenders are like, yeah, I can close this in 12, like regular conventional lenders.
Okay.
That makes a huge difference on inventory, typical inventory levels.
Sure.
Anyway, so I don't prescribe to the 6 months, if you can't tell.
Yep.
I think it's
I think that's old. That's old news, if you call it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's anyway. So I think it's going to be different here in San Diego. Where is like the real tipping point? It really just depends, like, as it relates to values. It depends on of the inventory you have, how many of those are distressed. Like and by distressed, I mean like very, very motivated to sell.
Gotcha.
Right. And a flipper is very, very motivated to sell.
Yep.
And it's why we've seen wide ups and downs in our market, because we got a large amount of speculator activity compared to the rest of it.
Yep.
And when shit hits the fan, I mean, the only way you got to sell.
Yeah.
Right? So
you got to move it. How many? What would you consider someone to be full blown flipper business? Are they doing 1 a month, 2 a month?
I've never thought about it. You're doing 1 a month. I mean, that's a pretty good clip.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
especially in this lower inventory market, right? In these price points.
So the question is, when are they full-time flipper?
Yeah. Like, what would you consider a competitor?
Yeah. I mean, 1 a month.
Because you guys
Less
are,
than that,
I mean, out of the top maybe 10 flipping companies, renovation companies in San Diego, you're definitely, I think, in that, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, as far as the data that we track, we were either number 2 or number 3, depending upon.
Is it GG Homes is like always?
GG
I buy everything. I buy SD in California and
GG Homes for sure. But we're looking at data of like who's actually closing on the property. GG Homes doesn't always.
Yeah, they're wholesaling. Yeah.
So it was Open Door. Flip side, which is I just learned is no longer in business, or at least highly scaled down, and then GG Homes and us. So we're somewhere between number 2 or number 3 on that list.
Okay.
We're going down in our volume though. We're like we're being very careful on what we're buying, and we still see a lot of opportunities for sure. But like 2 years ago, we were like, we can make money on anything, right?
Interesting.
Now it's like, if it's got a busy road, if it's got no or minimal yard space, we're not buying unless we're highly discounting that property.
So that's what in layman's terms for real estate, that's called economic obsolescence. You know that's what that's called?
Yeah, functional obsolescence.
So just so people, if you want to get technical, there's economic obsolescence and functional obsolescence. So this is like, I don't know why I remember this from my real estate program that you get your license. So functional obsolescence is like you buy a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. Right? It's functionally obsolescent. Like you need to add another bathroom to it, or it has a really funky floor plan. Something functionally interior to the home. Okay. Economic obsolescence is exterior to the property, under the flight path, busy road, next to freeway. I don't know. It's next to a chemical yard. Weird shit. It's completely out of your control. Okay. Completely out of your control, external to the home. It's called economic obsolescence.
It's new to me.
Yeah.
I've heard that term before.
You just got educated.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is that. So that is exactly what you're talking about. And I would agree with that because what it does immediately is it reduces your buyer pool by at least 30%. So 30% of people, if they look at an aerial and they see that it's next to a busy road or a freeway or some weird thing, they won't even look at the house. So your buyer pool drops by 30% day one. So now you have a smaller buyer pool, which means you have to probably have a lower price, right? Because less people are going to look at it, which means your demand's lower. So same thing like a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And how many people are really going to do that?
You can add that second bath.
You got to add the second bath. So that way you can make it functional. So it's not obsolescent. So when you're going into reno, are there certain things that you have found recently in San Diego to be more expensive than others to do renos? Or is it all?
It's all expensive.
It's all expensive.
Dude, when we started, it was $30 a foot when we started. So technically,
wow, really?
We're 3 times the amount. Yeah. Okay. $30 to $35 a foot was our initial.
And now you're 85 to 120.
Yeah,
give or take.
I'm everything's expensive. But it's all relative. It's all an investment. It's right. What's going to bring the ROI. We're not only doing this, but we're focusing more on higher end properties where there's a lot of cash buyers still, cash homeowner buyers.
Price point, you're acquiring north of $1 million, selling for under 3 type thing.
Well, yeah. So the few that we've been looking at, and we continue to look at, it's somewhere between 2 to 3 buy price and
okay, so some upper ends one.
Yeah.
But aren't you having to stick in those properties for sometimes a year to turn it?
Just depends. I mean,
depending on how much reno you're doing.
Yeah, and those ones. I mean, I am more willing to add square footage, go through the permit process, and
because the buffer for profit's much heavier.
Yeah, we have and it's a higher price per square foot on the sale side. So if you got to spend $500 a foot to make $1,000 a foot,
right?
Now there's some room there.
Sure.
So anyway, as far as what's more expensive and what in my terms, it's all like, hey, what's going to get the ROI? What is a buyer looking for?
Sure.
Sometimes that means, very rarely, but we'll do it. I mean, if it's carpet and paint, we'll just do carpet and paint.
And most of the hard money, because you guys are still using hard money, or you guys?
Yeah.
So that's bringing in 90% of acquisition, of the purchase price, and then 100% of the reno.
Yep.
And then
it's
guys
funny that's the normal term now. Like that used to be like we've been getting it for years, but we look at everything from an annualized point of view because the way I look at it is like
turn the money.
Yeah, if I hold this property for 12 months, I've got to manage it for 12 months. Mm-hmm. I've got a cost of hard money obviously for 12 months. I've got manpower. I mean, we have a 20+ person team, so I don't. I changed everything to an annualized rate of return about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So,
well, yeah, because if you can take, say, money in and turn that in 120 days, hypothetically, then you can turn it twice a year, ish.
Yeah, or
a little bit more,
3 times a year. If
you're real good,
yeah.
right? So then if you're making 10% margins net of all cost, that's 30% a year.
Yeah, that's our market. Our mark is 30%. Like if I'm going to buy, if it's cash on cash, right? I'm putting $1 million into this.
Yep.
I want a cash on cash return of 30% annualized.
Okay.
If we can do that, then it passes the sniff test. Now, there's small exceptions where we'll go down like 28, and then sometimes I demand 35 because there's more risk. But yeah, that's I went away from net margin. I went away from gross margin because that it just ignores the time factor, and the time factor is the biggest part.
Huge. I mean, like on your money. I mean, if you're sitting there clipping at 10 to 11%, which is kind of what the rates are right now, right? For hard money, would you say 10 to 11?
I think for most people, yeah.
And you're probably getting a little bit better returns, I'm guessing. Okay. And then like 2 points usually going in.
I think that's come down
1 to 2 points.
1 to 2 points typically for people. Yeah.
So and you're sitting there having to everything. Every single day matters because you got your daily carry cost. Yeah, which you look at from.
Well, and again, every day like that property's in the pipeline. I got to think about it. My COO's got to think about it. My asset manager's got to think about it. My project manager's got to think about it. Like we all got to think about this thing.
Yep.
The less time I got to think about it, the better.
No, I think we were chatting as you were coming in because we do more multifamily and stuff like that. But we've trying to think, when did we stop doing flips? I want to say it was like 2014 because I was doing a lot with my brother, and he was doing some down here, mostly in Riverside, Inland Empire areas.
Got it.
But I want to say we flipped probably just under 100 homes total during our 4 or 5 year sprint at it. But the thing I appreciate about it, which is why we're actually looking to do a few more here to get back into it, call it. But I love the transaction. I love and I hate the transactional side, right? I love it because it's you're turning money faster and you can pump up some capital. But then the key to that working to actually benefit from that is you have to move that money that's short term, on ordinary income type tax money under 12 months, which you're going to get hammered on from a tax perspective. You have to move those profits into longer term assets for you to really get the tax benefits. Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to get clobbered if you're just sitting there turning properties, which is great. You make good money flipping houses. But if you're not moving that money to preserve those profits into long term type assets where you can depreciate, remove that taxable gain that you're going to have, all that stuff out of the equation to actually keep the money you're making, you're going to get hammered. Yep. So that's kind of the play, which is why we ended up moving into multifamily because I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we're going to get like a 45% tax kick if we don't.
You get hammered. Yeah. The way I look at it, and this is definitely an anomaly compared to most investors in real estate, but I look at as our flips as a business. Like we have a brand, we have a team. Like it's a business entity, just like your partner here has, right? It's a business entity that requires capital. The capital comes from investors.
Gotcha.
Right. So, we raise money on our properties. One of our products of our business is the return we're able to provide to our investors. But then at the end of the day, like the business makes a profit. Yep. Now that's now I take that money as that's my active income, and as an investor,
what are you going to do with it?
What's left to me, I'll go invest, right? Yep. And that way I can run the business like a business. Yep. And I think it helps differentiate us because if you're just looking
as a flipper,
if you're doing it as if you're doing it as at volume at least, and you're just looking at it as a flipper or an investor, then ultimately it's impossible to get out of the mindset of this is my money. I matter. I'm the client, and I gotta go make money, right? Yep. When you look at it as a business, I'm able to at least mentally say my business is here to serve my clients.
Yeah, you're not the only shareholder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the right way. I mean, because we raise money through the multifamily. And I look at it in the same method of, hey, we're raising capital to go place into these investments. It's not just our own. So we have an obligation to serve those clients and call it customers and give them the best return on their money along with us and everybody else.
Yeah.
And run it just as such. So yeah, anytime we've done the flipping, it's the same mindset, right? Because we'll even raise money into a small little fund, like you said, and then deploy that capital in to go buy, you know, the properties. And then they get a return, typically, you know, 15, 18, 20% a year, you know, or more on their money. So they're happy.
Yeah.
And they're getting that return. Like you said, if you're turning it a few times a year, then they're seeing some pretty good clips.
Yeah. I mean, I active income is great. That's how you build, like, that's how you build your war chest in order to achieve the financial income, financial freedom. So I love flipping. One, because I've done multifamily, I've done development. It's slower.
Yeah. You're having to deploy that capital for longer.
Yeah.
Now there are people ask me like, you know, why multifamily over single family? And I say, well, okay, first of all, do both. So it's not one or the other. The reason you do the multifamily is you get paid 5 to 8 different ways when you buy a multifamily building. Like if you're going to syndicate and raise money and go buy deals and all that stuff, you're getting paid 5 to 8 different times during the course of that ownership. A few of them happen in the beginning through, I say, acquisition fees and finder's fees, if you put that, depending on how you're structuring your deals. And then you get the cash flows, you know, paid monthly and quarterly while you own it. Then let's say you do a refinance a couple years in, there's a cash out refinance event that happens. And then let's say you're going to go sell it down the road. Now you're getting profits from it. Plus you get maybe a disposition fee as the syndicator. So by the time you're all, and while you're renovating it, you're getting a construction management fee. So there's just multiple ways to get paid while you're doing a multifamily deal, which is why it's so great. And then you get all the tax benefits on top of that, which are sick. But the active income, like people say, well, I only have 50 grand or 100 grand to invest. You know, should I go buy a multifamily? And I said, well, you should not go buy a single family rental that's only going to pump out $300 a month in free cash flow against your $100,000 in. That's not going to be a good cash on cash type ROI. But if you went and took the 100 grand or 50 grand and syndicated a deal, well, yeah, because now you're going to get paid 5 to 8 different ways. You can see your ROI is like 3,000%.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that ability, then flipping some houses, right? Because flipping is great. You have active income. You're turning that money every 4 or 5 months, and you build up, like you said, a little war chest. And then you take that active income, which you're going to get hammered on in terms of taxes, and like you said, put it into other longer term assets and depreciate them. So that way you get tax benefits. But that's the game.
Waiting for that. I hope Trump comes back with that bonus.
Oh, it's all right. Well, it's still there. It was just they took it from 100%, 60 to or 100 to 60.
It's hard in San Diego to make 60% make it sense.
Yeah. But it's coming back. 100% because he realizes the value of that and how that helps people move money.
So, I loved it.
100%. He'll bring that back. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, if you want to kick up the investor game and get people to come in and get these big tax benefits and attract money. I mean, I can't tell you the number of doctors, attorneys, people that have high paying jobs and incomes that are getting clobbered, especially in a state like California. And they're like, I just paid Uncle Sam a lot of money. And I'm like, oh yeah, you did. And I said, how would it be cool to put that into a multifamily, and rather than it going to Uncle Sam, it goes into an asset you can go touch. And then we'll just depreciate you and give you a K1 statement. And they're like, holy shit. Like they freak out when they see that. So let's talk about family.
All right, let's do it.
Tell me about your family. How many kids you got now?
3 kids.
3 kids? I thought you had more.
No.
You didn't want like a basketball team?
No, that's not me. I did.
Are you guys done?
I wanted 4, but then we had 3, and it was right. It felt,
well, yeah, because you went from man defense to zone.
Yeah,
as they say.
Yeah, and our third is our wildest, of course. So that's how it works.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, 14-year-old boy, and then a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are getting into the teenagers and entering high school.
Oh, we're talking about
middle school.
We're talking about cars. I got my son starting high school next year. That's fun, dude. It's different conversations.
okay, so my son is 9, or I'm sorry, 10, going to be 11.
Okay.
Okay. The girl talk is kind of starting a little bit. He's got he's got a crush.
Okay. Oh, good for him.
When does it really step in? When should I be worried as a dad to have?
I don't know. Everybody's different. My son could care less right now.
Do you think that's the case, or is it really the case?
We talk all the time, man. We have he's. Of course, I could be one of those naive parents, but we have a pretty open dialogue about everything, and he's so yeah, I don't think he's hiding anything from us.
Okay.
Yeah, he just does. He's into D&D. You know.
Okay.
I got myself a nerd, and it's great. I highly recommend you turn your kids into nerds. That's an Instagram clip right there.
Turn your kids into nerds.
Oh, it's great.
I told Brody, I said, hey, buddy, there's 2 things that I think if you want to, because he loves money, right? I'm like,
right.
Oh, that's cool. You love money. AI automation. I said, son, if there's 2 things you can learn, it would be AI automation. Because if you think we are literally, if you think of an iceberg, we're at the tip of it.
Yep.
And it's exponentially growing so fast that within the next, call it by the end of Trump's term, it'll be another ball game. And then after the next person, you'll literally have robots in your house. It's getting crazy. But the AI automation for businesses and people and things so they can actually utilize the tools that are out there, I said, is critical. I said, if you want to go make some good money right now, be very, very well versed in AI automation. That'd be number 1. Number 2 is I said, I don't want to say like go be like a YouTuber because that's not what I'm looking at. But I said, if you can teach people a skill, right? Everybody's the education space is massive. So he kind of was like trying to figure out, okay, can I teach people about bikes? Can I teach people about this? Can I teach people about that? I said, yeah, man. I said, you go and if you want to do videos and stuff about it, I sold a $5 million house to a YouTuber. It's unbelievable.
Well, they make good money.
Not all of them, but yeah, you get the
not
point.
all of them.
Yeah.
It's like
there's so many ways to make money.
It's like anything else, man. You just gotta go all in and be great at it, and be willing to suck at it for a while, and
realize that.
YouTube, AI automation. Now, I'm a big believer in trying to find that trend and then riding it, and I honestly think that a lot of the influencer space is saturated, at least in the way it's done right now. But that AI automation, if you can get in the beginning of this wave, people underestimate and underappreciate how much timing has to do with success. If I didn't get started, if I'm trying to get started in flipping real estate right now in this market, it is 15, 20, 100 times harder than when I got started in 2010.
Yeah.
If I had to start right now, I would have lost people's money and been bankrupt.
Why do you say that?
Because if you're starting,
and you have no knowledge or very little knowledge,
or even if you have knowledge, you're going to make a mistake. When you are riding a wave up, mistakes are covered.
Gotcha.
You're covered by appreciation.
Yeah. So do you think the appreciation has stopped?
Well, as of the last couple months trend, it's been pretty flat. It's been pretty flat for the last 2 months. Yep. And usually it starts to tick up in late January and
we usually
February.
See, I call it the Super Bowl light switch. So if you go look at kind of historical data, about a week after the Super Bowl, we always, at least in real estate and everything, I've always looked leasing, all that. We usually see a huge click starting right after the Super Bowl. So coming up in another week or 2, early February is usually when we start to see trends move a lot more.
Well, we'll see. I'm of the belief that by the end of this year, not by a lot, but that our year-over-year appreciation is going to be negative for the first time in a long time.
Okay. So you need to be careful buying properties right now if you're flipping.
Going back to timing, right? The principles of success are always the same, right? Yeah. But if you get lucky,
right,
or you are smart enough to identify the trend, and you get involved early, now you have a now you have a
buffer,
a tailwind,
yeah.
right? You have something bringing you forward as you go through this.
Yeah, so you can screw up a little bit and don't have to be perfect, and you still can.
And I believe in the market we're entering in to do what we do, you have to be damn near perfect now or soon to avoid costly mistakes.
Okay.
And so getting started in this environment, not to say you can't do it. Not trying to talk anybody out of it, but just
so if we wanted to flip some, half dozen houses again, I mean, I've done enough. I mean, we're not at your level. I mean, how many homes you flipped?
I'm 500, 600.
Okay, so we're like 20% of you because we did probably about 100 homes over our time. I'm a licensed GC, obviously broker background, all that stuff. We construct. I mean, we just technically flipped 80 apartment units in South Bay, so we're just finishing that up. So the crews and operations, systems, logistics, speed, got that down pretty good. But it's different. It is different.
That's why, that's why I really am going to be looking a little bit more at the unit turns. One, because I think there's some distress in that market. It's harder to sell multifamily right now with the interest rates where they're at and where sellers still think cap rates are at and all that. But it is different for sure, but it's also, it's a lot more similar than, flipping to development is entirely different, right? Flipping to, unit turns is pretty similar. The financial modeling of a project, 100% different. The nuts and bolts of hammers and nails or whatever.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, I look at it, I mean, because we're doing 4 or 5 a month, right? When we're turning an apartment complex.
It's the same kind of crew, same crews.
Same crews.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's the same crews because our crews we flip houses with. So I know it is. And I went and looked at some of that because I'm looking to maybe use them if we do start flipping some stuff. Just the quality of work and what they do and how they do it. Because an apartment unit, it's similar, but you want to make sure that the quality's there on the flip side too, right? But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So flips are still. Yes, you can still flip. You still make money. I believe, I wouldn't do this business model and invest as much time and energy as I have to build a machine and a team that is going to operate. If I did not think I could do this into perpetuity,
sure.
It all comes down. When the markets get wonkier or move from a seller's market to a buyer's market, you got to change your buying formula, and you got to be on top of the changes in the buying formula as they come. And this is why I look at this shit every week. And you got to be nailed down on operations.
Yeah.
If flipping now, if you're wholesaling, again, different story. I mean, I don't like wholesaling, but what people
you guys
pay.
do wholesale some of your deals, right?
No.
So all the ones you take in, you do.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like our differentiator.
Gotcha. So you're not like a GG or some of the other that'll do 50-50 or some here, some there, and the wholesale.
We don't do any direct to seller. Our whole
you do no direct to seller marketing
or sales.
Okay, interesting.
Our entire business model is based around partnering with real estate professionals, real estate agents.
That'd be my approach. I mean, I was telling Kevin the other day, I said, there's 3 ways, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, 3 ways to find the flips, right? You go direct to seller, direct to broker, which would be agent, right? Relationships, or deal with wholesalers, but you're going to be paying assignment fees and all that other stuff. That's usually the 3 best and only methods I know.
Yeah, I mean, you got like courthouse steps, which don't really exist much anymore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those are the primary ones. Yeah, so we deal with wholesalers and agents.
Yep.
I mean, again, it's a big machine. This whole real estate industry is a big machine. Yep. You can be really, really freaking good at buying, like direct to seller. That's a different business model.
Yeah.
You're running a sales and marketing
machine. I mean, mailers, text messages, phone calls.
GG Homes, they're basically a sales training organization and a marketing company, right? They are pumping out really good salespeople that are going out and they know who their target market is, and they're going out and offering what that target market wants in a sales presentation, and then they go back and they know who their target market is for their buyers, and they sell it, right? They just assign the contract. That is
but they're flipping
different
right?
machine. Oh yeah, they also they do that too. But that's, to me, that's two different businesses.
Yeah.
And they actually have two different businesses. They have GG Homes, which does the flips, and they have iBuySD, which does the
wholesaling.
Anyway, this is not a master class on GG Homes.
No, but it's interesting.
But they
it's
are
interesting the different models.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought that if you're going to be a flipper, you're also technically a wholesaler, because you're going to see deals or get deals that you'd be like, well,
a lot of people are like a lot. What I found in trying to do it, when I decided, like, hey, we're going to be a volume-based service provider to the real estate industry for these distressed, these houses that need love.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're all about.
Which I like that model. I mean, personally, I don't like the wholesaling.
Yeah. Well, I talked to a lot of people. Most people don't, but wholesaling does, if you're in that investor model and not building a business, right? If it does provide quick cash, and it allows you to monetize a lot of your efforts if you're not going to flip it, or you don't feel comfortable about it for whatever reason.
Right.
And, so what I decided or figured out is, like, when I'm looking at a deal and thinking, well, I could wholesale this, then I'm spending a lot of time on something that I don't really believe in. And then I gotta build a process to then take that, I go lock that property up on a price that I don't believe in, that I don't want to take it down.
Gotcha.
And then go find a buyer for it. And I just told myself, well, if I just say no, like, Warren Buffett says, the really successful people just say no to more things. If I just say no and then go back to sifting through everything else that's out there and focus on the shit that I want to buy, that I believe in, I'll end in the grand scheme of things, I'll end up making more money. Now, sure, I do leave money on the table when I don't wholesale something.
But is there a real margin if you're buying stuff from wholesalers, or are they trying to take all the margin out of it?
They try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is what happens. I mean, that's what for us,
because they may lock it up at the wrong price, right? And then they try and put their little assignment fee on top of that. So by the time you get it as a flipper,
we turned out a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
you're like, dude. Like, I looked at one in I think Chula Vista, and I'm like, bro, how are these people doing it? Because I said,
that's funny.
I'm running our numbers pretty sharp and thin, and I'm like, they paid what for that thing? I said,
this is why, for two things, why I believe that our values are going to see a dip this year is because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing and or are expecting prices they're not going to be able to get, and then the only way to sell that is by
fire sale.
So you have to keep going down.
Yeah.
And it anyway,
and that's mainly because of the cost of capital these days with the back end user.
Correct.
I mean, when they're having to pay 7% interest rates, which is what they're at now.
The market. I mean, again, when everybody's running out into the water, right? What does Warren Buffett say?
No, when the market is what?
Get the
greedy, you get
out.
Fearful.
Yeah.
When the market is fearful, you get greedy.
Yeah.
It's the opposites.
And anyway, there's just a lot of people thinking that flipping is the answer.
Yep.
Because it totally makes sense intellectually. I am not, by saying this, I'm not bashing on these people that want to do it. I love flipping houses and understand the sexiness of it. But there's a lot of people that are trying it or getting into it because the real estate market volume is way down.
Sure.
When volume's down, there's a lot of people in real estate that are like, well, I got to make money and I got to find ways to make money. So let's try this flipping thing. But I mean, people don't realize that you can lose your ass.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time.
I think hands down the operation side. So let's say you bought it right, for simple math. You bought this property right. You're like, okay, we bought it at the price probably needed to.
Yeah.
We've got our budget in place. It's probably a good budget. Well, now you come to the actual execution game, where now you got to get the renovation crews in there. You got to know your scope of work correctly, so you don't get a bunch of fucking change orders, which you know are going to come from these subcontractors that try and go in there and say, well, this was supposed to be here and it was over here, right? Knowing how to walk through a house correctly and cost estimate. And then hold their hand and watch them like a hawk. So the next thing you know, you're not coming out of there and, you know, supposed to be a $60,000 budget turns into 120.
Yeah.
Because that speed and the money is, whew. I mean,
It is.
you can't call out a subcontractor correctly and know that they're full of it. That's where I say people get hammered because they're like, dude, they said it was this. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Well, and that, again, that has been happening a lot for years, but people don't feel the pain
Because they appreciate
when you sell for 50 or 100 grand more than you thought.
Right.
We are freaking anal about how our process, how we approach it, how we schedule things, how we put the scope together. I mean, if you aren't really decisive and figure out exactly what you're going to do up front, then you're screwed.
Yeah. Because change orders are coming.
Yeah. Well, you're going to change something.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to the contractors when you do that too, but people don't understand how hard it is to be a contractor.
Yeah.
I'm not the licensed GC, but we have a construction business. It's freaking hard.
Yeah.
You gotta, half the battle in construction for clients is communication. And if you both ways. And so,
so having your quote unquote assembly line scope of work ready to go. So that way, when you turn the light switch on to that contractor to go into that house, they can blow and go is the ideal way, right?
We stack subs to keep the project moving. We buy all the material.
Yeah. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. I have I've gone back and forth.
You have a warehouse for this shit now?
I don't. So I do have a warehouse.
Okay.
I used to stock stuff.
Yeah.
And found out that it just becomes a breeding ground of dead material. So and never gets used.
Yep.
So we don't do that anymore. It's just in time delivery like Walmart. But we've gone back and forth. I've tried different ways. But the problem with the kind of contractors usually that are doing the work is they're not always the best at managing money.
Yep.
And so the biggest area where they get hammered is they don't know how to budget for material, and then they don't have money to buy the material.
Right, so they ask you for it,
and then they run out of money, and then now you not only did you because you didn't budget correctly and the contractor didn't budget correctly, you now just put a guy who lives paycheck to paycheck out of work and screwed him over. 100%. But then you're over budget and your project's sitting.
Yeah,
gotcha. Again, it is sexy. I love what we do.
Yeah.
It is hard fucking work to do it really, really well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there right now that haven't been through that school of hard knocks, and it's just going to get harder as the market's not giving you free money.
The appreciation on the upside. Interesting. Well, this was like a school of hard knocks today.
Oh, dude, I just feel like I just like beat up everybody's dreams of
Well, no. Listen,
just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. What Brian is saying is
find a partner.
Listen to Brian, right? I'm even listening to him because I've flipped a lot of houses, and now we do multifamily and we do ground up construction development. I understand that game inside now, but he is dead on. If you don't have the appreciation in the market helping you, and you have to get really efficient with your systems, you can't fuck up. This is not a time where you can go in and buy the property wrong, have a budget set, run a really bad construction process, and have an extra, 10, 15% on your costs, expect to get out of that thing with a profit.
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen.
Nope.
So you just got to be good. You got to be good with your cost estimations, scope of works, how you buy the properties.
It's to give advice after beating people up for so long. I'll go back to how we started, right?
Yeah.
Get really good at buying the property. Like know how to analyze, know what's a good deal, and then if you really want to get into flipping and you don't want to make those operational mistakes, find somebody like we did when we first started and partner with them.
Yeah.
It's why we created a program specifically for agents, because I saw a lot of agents wanting to get into flipping, and it's just a completely different business model. And people don't think how much you have to, if you're going to go do a flip, you're now taking, and you're an agent, right?
Yeah.
You're taking your eyes off your main business to go start a new business.
Right.
Like they don't think about it. Like
Right.
you are now starting a new business and figuring shit out while your main business is sitting here. You're not selling.
Well, and I know the number one, I mean, sales, I mean, I've done that game. And yeah, the minute you start pulling your foot off the gas in the sales game,
Screwed.
you're screwed.
So hard.
I mean, your energy in the sales is so critical. But that was actually probably one of the hardest things, and we can maybe finish up on this, when I decided to make that transition into the investor world, specifically multifamily, because that was 2018, 2019. I said, I'm going to do this shit. But it wasn't until COVID that I finally said, in order for me to do this, I have to be okay with not being a top realtor anymore. I have to be okay with taking a couple steps back to go a bunch of steps forward, which means less income, which means things are going to get tighter for a period of time, which means I better get real lean and mean and be okay with like stepping back to go this way. And that was one of the hardest things. I mean, I remember talking to Seth O'Byrne. I was sitting at a coffee shop with him in Encinitas because he saw what I was doing. And he's like, dude, I kind of want to do what you're doing. And I said, are you okay with not being a top realtor anymore, Seth? Because I said, that's what you're going to have to do. Like no longer are you doing 50, 60, 70, $80 million or plus a year in sales. I said, you're going to be ready to step back because your energy, right? We all know where focus goes, energy flows. And so he's like, well, I don't know. But he managed to figure it out because he actually partnered up with some people that would take a lot of that energy for the development stuff, which he's now just partnered on. And then he can be a part of it and still do the sales game with the teams. And so he's kind of being able to play both worlds a little bit. Yeah. And that was okay for him. But that's what I had to make a decision on. And it was a hard one. When you're like, shit, I'm going to go take $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 off the table on sales, and I have to pivot for a period of time, and I got to go. Yeah, like you got to run, you got to move, and you got to.
But that
urgency,
like, the 2 steps back though, like trying to do both at the same time, you're never going to go anywhere. Like you might be able to keep that income the same, maybe. Yeah,
maybe. But you're not really moving the needle.
Yeah, I mean, you got to decide, right? Yeah. You got to commit.
Yeah, which is why you have to have a little bit of a buffer time, call it 6 months of reserves. If you're going to pull back on sales a little bit so you can do less sales. Maybe you're doing 10 deals a year and selling houses. Now you're going to do 5. Yeah. And then, but I want to do some flips. Well, yeah. And then at some point you got to pull the plug.
Dude, I'm super conservative. So I'm in my head, I'm always like 12 months reserves. If you're in real estate. Yeah. And especially if you're going to get in flipping. Yeah. 12 months of reserves, don't touch that fucking money. And I know that's not like that's a lot, right?
Well, it is depending on what your burn rate is.
Yeah, but and it's financial sense, maybe not, but like to be able to, people also in flipping underestimate how stressful it can be when your money is now tied into that property and it doesn't go well. And if you don't have that money in the bank account and you have to go rest your head on the pillow at night and in order to be able to wake up, a new person to be able to go tackle those problems the next day, if you're not getting sleep, dude, you are fucked.
That's a clip. That's a hook. That's a good one.
Don't please.
So if you can't tell, Brian's gone through this. Okay. Yeah. Oh, clearly gone through this, had the stressful moments. So finish on this though, because there's a great quote. I think it was one of Elon Musk's ex-wives or something like that.
One, yeah. That
said, listen, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be, and the great ones, you have to be okay sitting in a level of stress where most people's heads would pop off their shoulder, and you're able to sit in that with emotional discipline and not lose it. Because every great entrepreneur at some point has been on the precipice of broke, or been broke, right? Poor is different than broke, but broke. And everybody's been at a point where you're like, oh shit, I don't know how we're going to make payroll next week, right? Every great entrepreneur has been there. And if you haven't, we need to look at that because everybody's been there and or going through it. So you have to be okay sitting in that and then just being able to never give up. Just don't give up, especially if you believe in what you're doing and you believe that the process you're running is good. You just haven't been able to get over that hump just yet. So what do you think about that?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, running business is hard. It's not It's not for the faint of heart. And to grow a business, I mean, in order to do it right, you're not taking money out of that business for a long time.
Yeah.
And again, even to grow an investment business, right? If you flip and your goal is to financial freedom, to make money, you don't touch that fucking money.
Yeah.
Keep your burn rate the same. Build up reserves, because yes, sometimes it gets tough. But yeah, it takes a lot of discipline, and the amount of problems that are always swirling around you.
You have to be a professional problem solver.
Yeah, it is.
Every day.
What I read Elon Musk. I guess it's the theme of the day, or the theme of at least the last 10 minutes. There was a book about leadership style, and he has got he's CEO of 4 companies now.
Yeah, or more.
So his now leadership style is literally going into each of his businesses and figuring out what is the biggest problem of this business this week, and that's all he works on. That's all he does. He's just, every business, what is the biggest problem this week? Let's figure that out. Let's move the ball forward. Let's get an action plan in place. And then that's how he manages all these different businesses. Everything else around him is handled. Yep. And then the outliers, the problems are his job. And it's like, yeah, dude, that is entrepreneurship.
Well, sure. Yeah. When you can put a COO, and obviously he's at different levels where he has a whole C-suite of operational people running things, but where you can go in and play that super high level major problem solver to give direction.
That's basically the job. Yeah. Like, that is the job. I mean, for the entrepreneur. Now there's other things you got to focus on too. But anyway, yeah, it's the biggest problem solver, to your point.
So for anybody, if you're an agent out there and you want to kind of partner, right? I mean, because you guys partner with agents.
You partner with agents?
Yeah, listen, that is hands down, in my opinion, the best model. I mean, I was an agent. I partnered on some flips and stuff too. I mean, I didn't think you guys underwrit some of my deals when I was an agent that I think you guys put an offer on a couple of them, but the seller wanted more. So didn't work out, but that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they ended up later taking less.
I know.
You know how that game works.
His follow up, man. We should have been. We noticed that, like, when we're really good at follow up, we get the deals come back to us, because usually
they'll fall out of escrow or something happens and whole thing. So
anyway, so we partner with agents. We have our whole business model with We Revive. Like, I'm focusing it on as a business. I don't see myself as an investment company anymore. We are a service provider to real estate professionals. Now, obviously, our service is one of those is, we'll buy a house. We'll buy a house that needs love, and we'll pour the love into it, and that's how we make our money. Is how we sell it. But we also are building out the construction element in order to offer the real estate agents a construction provider that understands how to turn that house that needs love into something that their clients want, whether they need,
meaning they will renovate it before they list it, type thing.
That, or if they want to buy a fixer and fix it up. Now we're not doing work for other investors, because we got to make a margin. But but then I'm figuring out biggest problem. One of the biggest problems or opportunities this year to figure out is, okay, how can we, that Curbio model? Have you seen that, where Curbio comes in and will cover the repair costs for the seller,
right?
Get paid.
Yes, and they put a lien on it for the exit.
Yeah. They're having they charge an arm and a leg. Their margin's 100% on top of a contractor. Woo! It's really expensive.
So you're saying if there's an $80,000 construction cost, holy, like, that's what they want.
And they're using good contractors too, that are that 80,000 already has that 25-35% margin in it, and then they're charging their fees on top of that, and getting designers involved and everything. I actually like their business model. I think their monetary financial system is screwed up, and I've heard their operational system is.
But troubled. How does that even? They're not trying to flip the house.
No, they're just making their margin.
Yep.
And
then the house is selling.
Yeah, and then they're getting their
their
money back.
The homeowners use them to renovate.
Correct.
And then they're selling it. So it's kind of like renovation realty.
Correct.
Are they even around still?
I see them around. I don't know how much they're doing. I actually really like their model too.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant freaking model. The problem that I see on their side, and again, I don't want to talk shit in public here, but it's just an observation. The end product of the renovations, design wise, material wise, is rough.
Okay.
And I think in this modern world of buyers are informed by HGTV.
Yep.
We have an in-house designer. She's freaking amazing.
People will pay for unique designs, right? And they'll pay for kind of cool, trendy stuff.
Yeah.
And so
whether it's a buyer who's buying the house or a seller, sorry, a client that wants to live in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want the apartment grade finishes. No one, everybody, honestly, people rip that crap out nowadays. Anyway, we went on another tangent.
Yeah, no, I love it though.
That's our new focus as a business. That's my new focus as a business.
And I like that business model. You know, it's a good one because you're partnering with agents. I mean, I even believe on the upside, you bring them into equity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they help us, they can choose their poison, right? Yeah. Or that's a bad word.
Yeah. But depending on commissions and
if they want commission, then we'll pay commission. That's how our offer is structured. If they this is why we offered it, because people want to get into flipping.
Yeah. They just don't have the systems.
They don't have the systems. And if they don't have them, so if they don't have the systems or the money, but they have the property and they're like, I want a part of the upside, not a commission, then we have a model.
Will they get a commission going in the door, just not on the exit?
Neither. Usually they throw it in.
Okay.
Or usually what happens is there just isn't room for commission.
Right.
Right. And so then we'll just put them in the backside.
Gotcha.
Or if they have money, then now we can talk about
having an equity in
50-50.
it. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. I love it, man. Well, if anybody wants to find you online, how do they find you?
WeRevive.com. And then I think my Instagram handle is Brian C. Daly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go look him up, man, if you want to find out what he's doing and how he's partnering with agents and everybody like that. But I appreciate you spending time with us.
Yeah, it's fun.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So in the future, he's going to be doing multifamily with us, and I'm just going to be doing flips with him.
There you go.
And we're set. It was trade secrets. So, all right, everybody, take care. Thanks for chiming in. Until next time, talk soon. Bye.